Okay, good morning. My name's Chris Caius. I'm chairman of the Administration Committee, and I'd like to call to order this Administration Committee meeting for Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. We have roll call, please.
Bierman,
Berman, yes, here.
Davis,
Davis here.
Ford,
Ford present.
Braz,
Braz here.
Gums,
Gums here.
Martin, Caius.
Caius present. Okay. Great. Welcome, everyone. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from August 10th, 2022?
Braz moves.
Berman second.
Braz and Ford. Any changes, modifications, additions? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Braz,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. Okay. Then I assume that the monthly reports for finance are attached. So we'll move right along. Is there any public comment online or in person? Hearing none, seeing none. We'll move from that. Facilities management, executive director's report. That would be you, Mr. Roger Fonstock.
Yes, sir. Okay. So we have a report for you today. Some of this is dealing with financials and just activities that are going on in building management and in the IT department. So this is an overview of what we're working on. So in the building management department, we've been doing the reorganization work. We have Henry Thompson is here with us today. He's sitting on the opposite side. And I think most of you met him already as the director of building management. And then we still have Mark Smith working on capital projects as the director of capital projects. We also brought in Matt Walker as a director of maintenance, and we're continuing to fill out the organizational structure that we need for building maintenance. The facilities preventative maintenance and service request system, we've done, I think, 4 different software platforms we've done reviews of. And we do have a recommendation for implementing a full-blown preventative maintenance and service request system that is going to change things for how our users and how our customers, if you will, for offices and departments make service requests and how we track them and provide follow-up. The other thing is we have people going through and doing the PM schedules, trying to get preventative maintenance schedules on all of the major mechanical systems. In the process, they're discovering lots of interesting things, which is leading to a lot of work. But at the same time, it'll give us a baseline for where we're at with maintaining. I think, the parenthetical statement, and this is something that Henry and I have been stressing along with the rest of our management team, is it's going to be cold soon. So we need to make sure we're focusing on the heating plant in the different buildings. We're scheduling some work with the boilers and maintenance services to make sure that those are ready, and especially the large buildings. Another thing is dealing with asset tagging. I know we ordered a bunch of asset tags, and we're going to be taking inventory of equipment and items that we need to track, make sure that we have a good accounting of where they're at, who has them, and who's responsible for those things. Again, we're still doing hiring, and we're working through the fiscal budget for 2023. We did have some positions in there and some things that we think are important to building management, and we'll be working through finance committee and the county board to see where those things go. But at this point, we're just continuing to hire out the organizational chart as it was budgeted for 2022. So that's the activities for building management. Again, this is the organizational structure that we proposed, and that we presented this to the entire staff. We held a meeting with all of the building management team, down to the mailroom and custodial. Everybody was there. We were just explaining who's going to report to who, how the structure is going to work, what the expectations are, how that fits into what we're doing right now with an executive director and the different departments that IT and building management represent. So you'll see building management is in there, as well as our other departments and divisions. And then we gave them a mission statement, which I think is important for them to understand what we're trying to accomplish. And it's really more about providing buildings and facilities that exceed our elected offices, departments, and the public's expectations. So, we can do the things to, patch up maintenance work, but at the time when everything we do is responsive and we're always trying to fix something that's broken, I don't think we're exceeding people's expectations. We're just answering the phone and responding. So we want to get beyond the reactive mode of things. And that's what this mission statement's all about. And I think it's important for them to know that we're not in it just to answer the phone and fix what's broken. So these are the overview of objectives and goals that were shared with the building management staff, and Charles and I with Henry, Mark was there, went through and answered questions. But these are the types of things that we've been talking about with the committee. And I just think that it's a good thing for you to see the types of things that we're stressing to the team and to the department. I think the last one says, last two actually say a lot about what we would like to see. And that's managing our progress, reevaluating things, and realigning our objectives and goals as we go through this, so that we're able to address new problems or things that we need to understand better. And then, the customer friendly part and being responsive is critical. In the time that we've been doing this, I can't tell you how many times people have told me, I really appreciate Henry's response or Matt's response or Mark's response. I think that part of it's already turned a corner, and we're getting better already at being responsive to the people that are asking us for things. So that's been a positive feedback. Hopefully you hear some of the same things. Getting into the budget, I know this might be a little bit small to read, but this is actually the budget performance report as of 3/4 of the year. So we're at 75%. And the only area of this that it has any real alarm is in this building repairs and maintenance of equipment and repairs and of grounds and equipment and buildings right in this area. They're the contractual services that we use to provide maintenance for the buildings and grounds. What you'll see though is that as you roll into the next page is that even though we're at 75% of the year, the actual number for building management, which you probably can't see on there, but just for your own sake, we're at 58%. So we're at 58% spent for the year, and we're 75% of the year done. So
Through
we're
September.
under, considerably on our expenditures. And these are things that include, wages, people not being hired. And then you also have, services that haven't been executed maybe, but there's a lot of things that are under budget in that budget. So services for maintaining buildings, grounds, those types of things are running high. Other things are running low. We're, net difference is we're at 58% versus 75%. So I don't think there's any, necessary alarm in those numbers right now. So anybody have any questions about the building management department at this time before we go to some of the IT stuff?
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Roger, welcome back. Hope you had a
Thank
good,
It was good.
good opportunity at your conference. Why are we performing less for?
Microphone, please.
Is it, there we go, that's better. Why are we performing less for maintenance if we're under budget with that? Is there a reason for that? Staffing, materials?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. So contractual services for maintenance are running high. We're probably 90+% in most of the contractual services. But in commodities and staff, we were running low for, half a year. So you can't really make up for that in the hiring department when you're, 6 people under. If you hire the people, you're still only going to pay 50% of their wages or 25% of their wages for the year. But you can't obligate that money, because then you'd be over the following year. So if you're going to come in under essentially. So in terms of the personnel percentage, which makes up a lot of it. I wish I had this in bigger print, but so we're at, on salaries and wages, we're at 60% right now. So 15% of our salary and wages is under. So we're 15% under on essentially $1.4 million. So 15% of 1.4 million, that obviously can balance out the contractual side of it quite a bit. And we can't spend the money on the personnel because next year we would be over budget on those people if we obligated it now. We could still afford it to go to the end of the year, but next year you'd be starting out with salaries that exceed your annual budget. The other thing too is if you look at, some of the services are under as well. There's a number of things like printing. General printing is at 29% on $62,000. So we're, 45% under where we should be. I don't know if that's because printing has been light this year or if there's forms that we, pre-printed for a year and didn't use them. Last year, I think they had a lot of printing related to maybe COVID or other things. And this year it's been a lot lighter. So some of that affects it. And then, just going into commodities, we're way under on commodities. So I think combination of employees that we had vacancies. We also didn't spend the health insurance for those employees. So that compounds it. And then some of the contracts and services and commodities are well under where you would expect them to be based on 75% of the year being done. So I think, at 58%, we're pretty confident going into the last 3 months that we're still going to be well under budget, even as we bring people on and as we ramp up and do some of the preventative maintenance. We only have 3 months left in the year, less than 3 months in the fiscal year. So I think it'll be under budget, and I
All right,
don't see
thank
any
you.
real concerns.
Any other questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Mr. Froz?
I guess I'm going back to the list Roger just went through before this, but with his goals and so forth.
I'm not sure everybody can hear you. For some reason, it's a little weak
Yeah,
today.
usually this one will pick up
Yeah.
your heartbeat.
Right.
Just thinking of Roger's goals on that list, having worked with the building management department quite a bit in the last few years, and it's kind of operating under sort of a status quo mentality, and it's just so nice to see some new faces, new attitude, and a clear vision. And I just think it's great. I think it's really headed in the right direction from here on in.
Point well taken.
Thank you.
Mr. Davist?
So in future years, as you reach, full roster of people, I assume then we're going to be, which has provided a cushion right now. I assume then we're going to be looking for savings because of the programs you're putting in place and being less reactive and more proactive. Otherwise, we go into a full year and we don't have those, salaries and benefits
Yeah.
that
So-
lag behind that made the cushion for us. So we'll have to find the rest of it in savings by doing a better job of taking care of things.
If I may, the response to that we've gotten from the maintenance team is that, preventative maintenance, you have to do it to maintain the assets, which is really important. The other part is trying to determine, and Henry and the maintenance staff will be working on this, is what parts of the maintenance do our people do versus we have to contract it out. And right now, because of the kind of the shortage of skills and people, we hire out so much of the maintenance that our people can do and will do. And then there's things that we want to do that are maybe, more significant or costly than what they had done in the past because they just weren't simply done. So there's going to be an interesting balancing act go on over the next year as we kind of figure out like what can our maintenance people do, and then what does it require, a pipe fitter, operator, engineer type of person to come in and take a boiler apart. So I don't know if it'll be interesting to see how it balances out in a year.
Well, I do want to echo what Mr. Frost said, though, that this is, having watched it for many years, I'm greatly encouraged by the new system and clarity of thought and vision that you've brought to it. And the guys behind me
Oh.
here. So I look forward to seeing it work.
Madam Chair?
And as a reminder, we're hunkered down here for about 8 more years. So we have to maintain our home, our work home appropriately, the home of people. So thank you so much.
One other thing I wanted to add in this organizational structure, we are going to be working at the next committee with Henry and Charles. We're going to try and incorporate other people in our office into these meetings to do their own reporting on the things that they work on. So it might change a little bit to where for buildings and IT, we have a couple of us handing stuff off in the meeting to cover a little bit differently and to get more familiarity with some of the people that are managing the work. And a little bit more direct communication with the committee as well. So just so you're aware, Charles and Henry are really doing a great job. They're leading 2 different teams, but all 3 of us get together regularly and talk about what we want to accomplish. And I think it's been a really healthy, good working environment for us right now.
Well, as chairman, I would welcome that input from staff so that when you're off in San Diego or wherever you were at
Yeah.
being professional,
Yeah.
they can
It
report.
was terrible.
It was Laguna
Oh, Laguna
Beach.
Beach.
Yeah, it was hard. I took one for the team.
All business, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's my jab for the day. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
first jab for the day.
So the next section is IT department activities, and this isn't just an overview. I thought I'd add this to the report just to kind of get more familiarity with some of the things IT is still doing. We are still deploying countywide phone systems. We have phones going out. We've been replacing the phone system. This is something that's been happening kind of in the shadow of everything else in the county. Charles and the IT group, we've replaced, where are we at? We're beyond 50%, 75%, Charles? We're close to done.
After yesterday, we only have Forest Preserve left, so
Oh.
we're almost done.
So while everybody's working, we replaced the entire phone system for probably almost 2,000 phones without really having a lot of discussion about it. It was an upgrade and we put that in place and did about a year's worth of replacing a phone system that had been with the county for about 15 years, I think. Yeah, so it was a good project and we did it so everybody could stay operational. We did it incrementally over time and it's just now closing out. So we are preparing for an upgrade of the big court case management system. I'm going to say that publicly so Teresa Barrero in the circuit clerk's office hears it, but hopefully they are encouraged. We did go to a meeting and discuss upgrades for the courts over the last 2 days with the company. And they've given us a lot of assurances that they can help us get through the upgrades. We're looking at the first quarter to maybe the second quarter of next year, trying to complete that. It's a significant undertaking. Last time it took us a little over a year to upgrade the entire system. For reference, that system, when they implemented it in 2016, was about $15 million project. And we've been maintaining it. We've done one major upgrade already, which was a big effort, and we're planning to start another one probably this fall, winter, and then early spring and early summer. We'll be doing the validation and the final cut in production. And the good news is that we'll be hopefully upgrading to their latest version, and we'll get to ride that version for about 2 or 3 years. So that's a good project for us. We are getting ready for the upcoming election cycle that is going to be on us very quickly. We got a lot of things to work through. We have on the agenda today the purchase of a storage system. It's a very large mass storage system. And we'll talk about that when the resolution comes up, but that'll be the storage platform for the county for the next probably foreseeable future, 5 years. Usually we get about 4 to 5 years out of a purchase like that. And it'll be a big change for us. We have to move all of the county's data, which right now is probably, I don't even know the total, somewhere around 250, 300 terabytes. I think somewhere in that range, 300 terabytes. So it's a big system to move around. We're also doing computer replacement. I was back in the shop back in the back today. They had desktops lined. I was going to take a picture of it because they have desktops lined up all over the place and they're doing upgrades of people's office computers. The nice thing is that that's like a sense of normalcy. we went through COVID and we had the shotgun wedding every week, deploy computers everywhere. So to see everything kind of going back to where we're doing a normal upgrade process or replacement was kind of comforting. We're still dealing with some supply challenges on that as we order stuff. It takes time. We got an order in and we're deploying it now. Another item that I'm working on is the final IGA with the Forest Preserve. We're trying to finalize that with Monica and the Forest Preserve. We'll have that at the next committee meeting. It's been through every legal review. Everybody's made their adjustments, but we have that pretty much set to go. Monica is happy. I think we're happy. We'll bring that back in. And then we do have some hiring that we need to do in IT as well. We had a couple people resign their positions. They're moving. I thought it was important to mention it. They're moving to our neighbor DuPage County. And just for point of reference, 2 of them, got sizable increases when they left. So that's something we're working on. That's something we're looking at. And I wish them all well when they make decisions like that. But for us, we're gonna have to do some pretty serious looking for some talent. So, and I'll go through the financial reports. IT's reports not anything too much different than building management. We don't have any noticeable items that are considerably over budget or anything. We're at 75% of the year, and we're at 64% of our budget. So we're under 11%. And I don't see that trend changing a whole lot going into the end of the year. In the last 3 months, we'll probably be pretty consistent. So, between IT and building management, we'll come in under budget for the fiscal year. I don't see that as a problem right now. So with that, I think we're done with the department report for IT. Do you have any specific questions about the
Comments or
activity?
question for Mr. Bonsack? Just one comment is that just like the phone system, we don't even pay, we fortunately don't have to pay any attention to it. And it's all managed very effectively behind the scenes. That's the kind of thing we've seen in IT in my 4-year tenure here. And it speaks really well to the kind of organization that we have.
Thank you. That's the goal for the storage system too. So when we replace that, that's a mountain of information that has to move from a bunch of appliances to new appliances. And we usually do it in a certain type of groupings so that we can take certain things off, move it, take some things off, move it. It takes a long time. It's months of work to migrate, but we try to do it seamlessly. So everybody comes into work, their stuff is working, they don't really notice, then move another group of things. And John and Zakozik and their group, they do a great job moving that stuff around. This is the capital performance budget for both building management and IT. And Blair, I don't know if you can zoom in on this slide. Can you hit the plus sign? Maybe they can see it a little bit better. Maybe one more. That's pretty good.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, too far. Maybe go back one, -1. There you go, right there. So this is the capital budget. And I'm showing this because, the budget versus projects is important to understand the difference. We have a project budget where we initiate projects, and that's kind of what the plan is for the money. It's not where we're at in the expenditure of the money. And so right now, with only 3 months left in the year, the percentage is 33% down in the lower right-hand corner. And the year to date, which is budget less year to date, we're at $6 million. That's for IT and building management. So what you're seeing is that a lot of the capital expenditures have not been invoiced yet. So we have the money sitting there. We're bringing in capital projects. A good example is we're paying for the boilers. We're paying for a courtroom renovation. We're paying for, the solar farm to have certain types of grounds and trees, and I think fencing. There's a lot of different things going on, but we haven't invoiced. And I think some of that was the carryover of changing things and how we're handling it. So we may end up coming in at the end of the year substantially under budget for capital, but that stays in the capital fund. And we would be rolling it into the next year in order to pay the invoices as they come in. A good example is the courtroom renovation is not scheduled to be finished until January. Our fiscal year ends and, we start a new year, December 1st. So we won't have the majority of the $1 million worth of invoices for the courtroom until next fiscal year. So you're going to see a request to roll over funds come through for the purpose of taking this year's capital and rolling it into next year. And we might have to do some balancing to figure out, where we end the year at and how much of the project is left to carry over. And we'll be working on that with Mr. Joe Onzik to try and figure out how we balance the capital funds from one year to the next. Capital fund for a lot of our projects is replacement of equipment. It's not new equipment, generally speaking, or new assets. We're replacing assets. So we buy a new asset, pull the old asset out, put a new one in. So a lot of this is required capital depreciation replacement. And I just wanted to make sure that that's clear. We're going to probably come in way under what we budgeted, but the expenses don't go away. The invoices will come. I think that was a question at one of the finance meetings, was about how much capital money is out there, and don't be fooled. It's encumbered or it's allocated to one of the projects that we're going to share in the resolution that we have for capital initiation. So Blair, if you could go back to frame, got lost there you go. So getting into the capital projects, I had asked White and Company about coming. I know there was some confusion on my part about getting Jason Dwyer from White here physically. Jason is on vacation today. And so I have some of his work. He had forwarded it to me. We've been, Mark Smith and myself, a couple of us have been beating him up, telling him we need project schedules with dates. We cannot just have bullet points. So he gave us the Fabian Parkway demo schedule, which if you see it, I mean, this is another one of those capital projects that we have about $450,000-$500,000 in work to do the demolition of the old diagnostic center. We're going to demo the garage and we're going to take out the fuel center. And, we had hoped to have this done by the end of the year. Based on this timeline, they're looking at starting the demolition sometime around the end of the year. Actually, he has it as December 28th. I doubt we'll be doing anything on December 28th, but he has it finishing in February.
Can we,
So-
I don't mean to interrupt, could we blow that up a little bit more?
Blair, you want to try
possible?
and increase the size a little bit? Just plus, it's hard to get it all on there. Maybe one more. There you go.
Oh, that's better. Thank you.
So if you scroll down just a little bit, Blair, thank you. That's good right there. That shows you. So the dark black lines are groups in a phase. So this is design phase, and you see it starts in 7/22 and ends in 10/6. Then you have the demolition bidding. This part here, procurement bidding and approvals, ends in December 27th. And then down here you go into the actual construction, which is actually probably the wrong word, right? It's destruction. We're demoing it. But that's the schedule that, and I thought this was important. Mark and I were talking with White, and we're like, right now we don't have a schedule, and I can't visualize or share with the board what that looks like. And we were hoping that it would be, something that would happen before the end of the calendar year. And after Jason's team put this together, we realize he's going to be in February. So it's probably 2 months later than we would have liked.
Sorry, Drew.
Yeah. But I can understand some of it. They spend a lot of time, I think Hygieneering's out there doing soil samples and trying to determine what we have to do to remediate the underground tanks, and scheduling resources is a challenge right now. So it took them a couple weeks to get somebody out there. And then after they do that, it takes them a couple weeks to write the reports. And then you have to have somebody analyze it for the actual demolition team to get it into a bid package. Next thing you know, you're 3 months later. So. Mr. Chairman.
No.
Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Brown.
Brown
Mr.
speaking.
Brown.
I do have a question. I'm not on the committee, but after the demolition of the building and the fuel station and such out there, what do we plan on doing how are we going to leave the site? are we removing the road that's out there and?
The roads will stay. And the only reason the roads will stay is because there needs to be access for trucks bringing fill into the side of the landfill over there. They still have some contracts, I believe Waste Management has some people bringing in fill. So we may limit the roads to one road that goes to the fill. And then we have two garage buildings out there. One is the former OEM and the other one is a former sheriff's garage. And then the sheriff actually still has a surface lot that they have some vehicles parked on, which we're trying to work on that to get them to repurpose the was that the impound lot? I think it's the impound lot, right?
That's
Yeah.
what I was wondering too, what you were gonna do with that, if that was gonna be maintained or gone.
Right now it's being maintained. We have a plan set for the Judicial Center campus where they had proposed to put the lot. And I think we're going to do some reconsidering of how that's laid out. We've got the plan set, and I think that we need to revisit it because it was done by a different architect and engineering group. And the location of it is between the solar farm and the jail. And I just looking at it, I'm not sure how that aesthetically will work. It's going to be a bunch of old impounded cars, but we're working on that. What kind of, because they're putting up nice fencing and a berm, and I think it's going to change how that area looks. And it might be wise to wait and see how they finish up the solar farm before we decide to put another construction plan into the same piece of dirt.
So I guess my question kind of boils down to, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, if you don't mind. When you're all done with the demolition and we're
Yes, sir.
done with this project, if the future board decides to put this property up for sale.
Yep.
Will it be clean or will there still be more remediation or investigation that has to go on?
So we had a Alta survey and an environmental survey done to identify all the spots that needed remediation. That's what we're dealing with the fuel tanks. There are other things on the property, the two garages. There's a 400+ foot radio tower that's contracted for a 2-year notice to terminate. So we have to give them 2 years notice before we can take it down. And then there's the I can't think of the name, Massa House, the house. Amasa House is on the property. We have to work with the Preservation Society. They're talking about that. So those are the things that'll be remaining there. The rest of it, the property will be just held in inventory. So it'll be
Mr.
clean.
Chairman?
All the environmentals should be relatively clean. And then we'll just be holding it as inventory.
Mr. Chairman, Bates, please.
Okay, Madam Bates?
What about the recycling center? Is that on the same land?
It's technically on a separate parcel from the sheriff, but it is on the same street. It's in that same campus.
Right.
We don't have
I've
any
been there,
plans, no plans to change that at this time.
but- Okay,
Well-
thank you.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I see these decisions as something that's going to be actively encountered and addressed by this same committee, whoever's on it at the time.
Yeah.
These are the steps that we've been trying, I know, along with Drew and other members of the board who've been here for 4 years.
Yeah, just one other
Yeah.
small
Mr.
item.
Davis, go ahead.
Dave will remember this, and Drew. I think there's also a little, we used to call it the pauper's grave. There's a little cemetery site kind of tucked in out there that's,
There is,
Easily
fortunately, that's
forgotten
on the
about.
Forest Preserves property.
okay, all right.
The only parking lot access is through the county property. So you
Yeah.
park in the sheriff's lot. And then as you walk through the grass, you transition over to the Forest Preserves parcel where the actual grave sites are. Yeah.
Oh, good. I get to deal with that.
Accidentally
too.
digging that up in the process, and that's good.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna touch that.
Yeah.
That's a surface lot, so we'll just leave the surface lot there for now. I mean, it's not harming anything.
So those are plans that at least we're making progress.
Yeah.
Excited to see the progress moving
Okay.
along.
So Forest Preserve president, there's a small cemetery out there that you'll have to.
So Blair, if you
Thanks.
could reduce that back down to page view, I'll go to the next slide. So in addition to this schedule, they gave us an update and hopefully you can read this. This is from Jason. He sent it over. And, it starts with the upcoming activities on courtroom 001, the renovation. They're working on that. The plan is still to try and have that operational by January 1st. I am very cautiously optimistic. I know they're working on it, but with supply and labor, I would challenge that is hopeful. Judicial Center boiler replacement, we are working on that. The current ship date is 10/7. So you're probably familiar with the emergency purchase we made for the boilers. They're scheduled to come in. They've done the walkthrough. We've done some work with building management to get that ready. We're still looking at, I think it's important is that they said they're going to sequence this to where we maintain the boiler operation during the transition. So we shouldn't see any significant issues with the temperature in the buildings, but at the same time, we are ripping out 4 boilers and installing new ones, and they're 9 million BTUs, I think, something like that. It's a lot of boiler. So that project is ongoing. The space needs analysis, which was something that we were hoping to have a discussion with Jason today about. They have completed the draft report, and we also have the assessment of the buildings that's also in there. We did the 5-year capital projection and the 23 budget based on the report on the building assessments. So that was used this year already. What we're looking for is when and where do we want to have White come in and do a final presentation, I shouldn't say final, but a presentation of the space needs and the building assessment. So the building assessment's about 16 pages of spreadsheets. They're going to put it into kind of a presentation format. And then the space needs is literally every office department building, how the space is being used, what kinds of needs and future projections of population and demographics. It's kind of a big picture, and that's kind of a starting point for your discussion about how you use all these buildings. And it'll tell you things that are over capacity, things that are under capacity, places where they say, hey, this doesn't meet the public's expectations, this is not serviceable. And I know a lot of that directly results in how much money do you have. So I'm cautious. I think you need to see the report. We were talking about releasing the draft reports to the admin committee and scheduling a time to do a formal presentation to admin so that you could have it. You could review it for maybe the next 30 days. And then October 12th, we would do the full presentation in admin. And then after comment from admin, we would talk to the Madam Chairman's office about a committee of the whole, possibly if we have it refined enough that we want to bring it to a committee of the whole. But I think admin on the 12th, we would schedule that day, lock it in with White and Company, and tell them to put their dancing shoes on and come in and show us what they have. Yeah.
I have a,
Okay, well,
if I
Yeah.
may, a question.
I say we do it today, bring him in today, but
They
I
have
guess that didn't work out.
He's got
Yes,
what
Madam Chairman.
he would have on his sneakers
Yeah.
because of being on vacation. So this is going to be a pretty comprehensive report, and we know that we have right now critical needs for public safety, primary judicial, and as well as storage. Those are the 2 primary things that I'm aware of, and some kind of handicap accessibility, whatever that looks like, for downstairs of the first floor here for access. So can we potentially zone in on just, I understand big picture, but those coming forward for next year are truly critical needs, depending upon the board's approval of next year's budget. There may be additional staffing that's coming through for the judicial partners, because that is planned for the Safety Act, et cetera, as well as perhaps some additional support from IT. And they have no space to go. So that to me is primary that we have to address, because otherwise we're going to give up. I don't know what we're going to give up because people need a place to work. And this is not going to be appropriate for some of these positions for remote access to work at home. They're going to have to be in place. So I know we don't have a lot of money, and some of these are future plans, future forward plans that we can address 2-3 years down the road. But we have issues for next year that are really biting at us.
I think if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Certainly.
the one thing that we've talked with White and Company about is how do you reallocate or work within the space that you have? And then how do you deal with the short-term growth? Is it, you don't have time to build something. It'll take you a year plus to build something. So then do you buy or do you lease something if you need additional space? Short-term lease is attractive because it's low annual costs. But once you start using it for 5 to 10 years, you're probably better off to buy and own and invest in your own property. So that's the kind of thing that the board would need to look at. Short-term, you can lease more office space. There's not a lot of office space on the market. It's pretty limited, especially when you're talking about, 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet of office space. So those are some of the discussions we could focus on, is how can you reallocate and reuse what you have? And then there's this question of, long-term construction, building, buying, leasing. Those are the kinds of things that I think will be the topics.
Hopefully we get some information from this long-term or the assessments that we
Yes.
have that will at least get started. So we're not overlooking something we have already.
Yes, it'll
That
show
could
you
be relatively
shortfalls.
inexpensive to modify or be available, and we own it right away.
Yeah, I
So
think the
that's
unfortunate
idea
part
anyway.
is like, well, when you look at the spaces that we do have, a lot of them are shell spaces used for storage. A good example we'll talk about is the jail. We have a large shell space in the jail. It's used for storage primarily. It's difficult to get access into it right now. Does it have options? And there's a part of the capital initiation where we're asking for a feasibility of what would it take for us to renovate that into space that we could use, because we own it. It's a structure we own. It's sitting there empty. So can we do something with that that's more cost effective? And so we put some money aside to do some feasibility with that in this capital project initiation. So you'll see that as well. But that's one of the few shell spaces that's available. The multi-purpose building, when it was built, Drew would speak to this as well. We had a lot of shell space and warehouse space that we were looking at, and it just was optimized out of the question to keep within budget. We still have 5,000 square feet of what was considered to be storage or shell space, and I believe it's relatively full. Mark, that correct? Mark says yes. Not to put him on the spot,
Silent
but
nod over there.
I mean, it's amazing. If the second you find an empty spot, somebody manages to fill it.
Yeah.
Even the shell space in the jail has got a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to renovate that space and make it functional, you'd still have to find a place to store all the stuff that's in there.
We're not hoarders, are we?
I'm not going to say that.
I'm sure this is all stuff that is, or equipment and supplies that we have to have on hand.
I will give
really-
the health department a tremendous amount of credit. They moved a lot of supplies out. They did a fabulous job moving supplies out of that space. It's still 50% full. I mean, it's got quite a bit of stuff. in
Drew,
it.
I recall some conversations leading up to that multi-use building where we asked for about double the square footage that we actually built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, in a perfect world, we would design or update our campus plan out there, and it would include a warehouse space. And you got to remember, when somebody needs something and it's right there, it's really handy. If it's across town at a warehouse, it's not.
Or stuck back in the jail where it's
Yeah.
really tough to get out.
30 years ago, this board said, let's put everything in one spot. And I think it's time to
Mr.
fulfill
Chairman?
that goal.
Bates, please.
Yeah. Madam
Well,
Bates?
Yeah, what do you mean shell space? Just like empty space, shell space?
Yes. So the jail, when it was built, there are 2 towers and The top 2 floors or top of one of the towers is basically just the precast concrete with the floor. And so it's like a big open
Just a
concrete
shell,
warehouse.
okay.
Yep.
All right, I didn't hear that word before. Thank you.
Wasn't originally designed for storage though. So it's
Oh.
that's why the study to find determine the feasibility of adapting it to storage that's
Oh.
accessible.
It's roughly, I think, about, if you
Or
finished it out, it
office
might be
space.
24,000 square feet. If finished.
And it's full?
If you finished it out as office, I think you could get close to 20 to 24,000 square feet of office space in it.
We
Oh,
were
it's
not
small.
looking at that facility for storage. We were looking at it
For office, I think I misspoke. I
Yeah.
meant office. Yeah. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But if we built that out, then what is the access to it?
So
That's-
that's why
that's
we
part
want
of
the
the problem.
feasibility part. Right
Yeah.
now, the access would be a
Because it is a jail.
there's a public hallway or a public corridor that goes to the visitation side. And you could use that, which is entrance off the front of the sheriff's office. And there's a hallway that goes down through there, and it's all public. It's not a secured area of the jail. Takes you through a public hallway and takes you down to a door that goes into the shell space. Right now, it's all locked up, but you could get to that space without going through the jail.
But it is an interesting approach to getting in there.
Yes, yeah, it's a long hallway through.
Long hallway.
Yeah.
It's designed for something else. Mr.
County
Ford,
board
you-
office.
Yeah,
Officers are-
I just want to say that that's very important if we're gonna look at the space, because some years ago, I made a visit to the jail, and that big concrete wall that slides down and make that thump zone, I would not want that every day going to work. So I applaud those who go through that.
You don't think we should put the county board offices up there?
I don't want to
I
respond.
don't think we have to go through that part of it. Yeah,
No,
that's something else.
no,
Yeah,
building
You're
control.
locked in is not the feel you get there.
Are you
but it is
planning
hard to
the
get-
need for county board members to visit the jail?
Yeah, that'd be, good. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I was
Fine
being,
line
I
between
meant
the
something
office and-
else.
Everybody should have a tour. Okay,
Go
well,
to work and not let us out.
So I really.
hypothetical down the future, it'll be addressed, a lot of this by the future board administration, I think, to take the lead on how we want to adapt whatever we have available and whatever we have to add. And I appreciate your input into this, because I think you're right, that you are correct, that we'll need to keep in mind that we have initial needs that are coming up right now. So, yeah.
So regarding the presentation, are we collective consensus to do the report and presentation at admin? And I will get out the copy of the draft report for comments and your review.
I'm getting nods from
Yeah.
the board members, and
I
then
think it's safer to review and look through it and get a little filter going, and then we can present it and
before it comes to the full. board.
yeah, start to ease it out, because it is, I think it's maybe good reading. I think it's almost 200 pages. So not to-
Oh, boy, and you will provide that to us available.
you want it printed or do you want it electronically?
We'll do electronic.
Okay.
Well, if
Kill
anybody
a
wants
bunch
a
of
paper
trees.
copy, please contact Mr.
Yeah, let us
Fox.
know if you need.
But let's not print out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Save a couple hundred trees there.
So that
Okay.
I think concludes the report that we had.
Trees
Blair, I
are a
don't think we-
renewable source.
And that concludes our report, the executive director's report,
Yes.
which includes the old business, B and C down at the bottom
Yes,
of the
sir.
agenda. So we are moving ahead on the agenda. I'm sorry, Mark. The homecoming float is,
Are you guys good at, if,
we'll try and knock out these,
I was gonna say, if you need me for a quorum for vote,
I'm not
if
sure we
there's
do, but
one-
let's do it.
otherwise there's a couple dozen kids who are looking for me
Okay.
to finish constructing, delivering, and then driving the float in the homecoming parade.
Oh,
A little later this afternoon.
Let's go. Let's do it.
So you want to move on to resolution then? I have a
Sure.
motion and a second
planning.
to, for a resolution authorizing capital projects from the cap fund. Moved by Faraz.
Gums so moves.
Second
second.
by Gums.
So this is the resolution just initiating the capital projects from the capital fund. The first one is, it's a branch court renovation project, which was for state's attorney pre-arrest office space. And some renovation work at the front of the branch court for the circuit clerk. It's $150,000 and there's $250,000 of grant money that's being provided by the state's attorney's office in addition to that. So they're funding most of the project. But this, while they do the demolition and work, we're going to repaint the front of the circuit clerk's office as well to match colors. And we're going to do some additional changing of lighting in there. So that's the first one in the new capital. We have office renovation feasibility, adult justice center. That's just to determine the feasibility of the shell space at the jail. I don't think it'll be $30,000. It'll be less than that, but because it's capital projects, we put a not to exceed 30,000. Multi-purpose building, we're going to do the same work for the overhead doors out there to make sure we have an engineering plan for fixing the overhead doors. Mark's been working with is Healy, right? Healy to get a plan set together that we could actually take out to bid to get a price for what it would take to create a larger or greater than 12-foot door opening for the sheriff's vehicles. We have state's attorney. They came to us asking for a replacement vehicle for one of their investigators. The vehicle is not operational and it's an existing vehicle. So we're asking to make an adjustment to replace one of their vehicles. And then building management, we're looking to outfit 2 vans for the maintenance guys to do HVAC, heating, plumbing, and repair work. We'll put all their tools in a van so that they can go from site to site with the people that do major mechanical repairs. A lot of the trucks we have are open cargo bays in the back, and we can't put tools and equipment in there. So Henry had asked us if we could accommodate 2 vans and get rid of 2 of the old rusted out trucks. So that's the balance of the new capital projects. We balance that through existing line items. There's no new dollars requested in the capital budget. It's just taking things that were budgeted in last year when they budgeted, reallocating, redistributing the money. So the net change is 0, and we're still at 6.5 million for capital budget. We're recommending approval.
Okay. Any questions? Roll. Mr. Froz.
Brad speaking, just to comment that a lot of the vehicles that building management has used were on their second life. They were about to get sold, and building management gave them a second life. So they're pretty well utilized by now.
Thank you.
That's true.
Yeah, I think they're second, third generation, some of them. So then roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Braz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes. Motion passes.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Chair, could I
Madam
make
Chair?
a request? When you're purchasing those vehicles, because there's so many potential contributions to buying an electric vehicle, I don't know if they have electric trucks that would satisfy what you're looking at, because it's going to be local traffic. You're not going to be driving to Minnesota with the truck. So that may be something that you could get a possible price and see if we can get one of those federal rebates, if at all possible, or a state rebate to help defray the cost.
I think those
We
are
can
tax
certainly
credits,
look
but I
into
don't
it.
think those work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But last time we checked with Jody, they didn't have any electric cargo vans.
Yeah.
She was looking for us and we couldn't find anything.
Well, we're certainly worth looking at. And I'm sure Madam Bates probably is, I think she's still on there. Yes. We'll second that, as will the other member of the environmental committee. me.
Rivian's supposed to have some coming out.
Right? We can just go down and pick them up down there
Yeah.
at Bloomington.
Yeah.
Okay. Item C, 5C, may I have a motion and a second to authorize expenditure of funds for online marketplace and maintenance, repair and operations, MRO supplies and equipment. Moved by
Berman,
Gums
yes.
moves.
Berman,
Berman.
and I missed the second part there, somebody. Davis,
Gums,
I
will
blurted,
second,
but
whoever.
there were 3 of us or so.
Davis's turn, sorry. Thanks. Think you would give us a short synopsis of that, Mr. Fonstein?
Sure. So this is for maintenance, repair and operations. It's supplies and equipment. And what we're doing is taking a joint purchasing agreement or a cooperative purchasing agreement that is it's through Omnia Partners. And Omnia has a contract with Granger for materials and supplies. So what we're looking to do is to use their joint purchasing authority to contract with Granger for parts and supplies, tools, building materials. Using the joint purchasing agreement, we'd be able to buy through them without having to delay for orders. It's like a standing agreement for those types of equipment. And we've provided some of the contract information, but it's not to exceed $200,000 per year. And I believe the contract expires in May of 2025. And it's budgeted expenses from building management for maintenance, equipment, supplies. We're recommending approval.
Any questions for Mr. Von Stock? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Bras,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
Passes.
Information technology, item A, 6A, resolution. May I have a motion and a second authorizing expenditure of funds for multifunction copier devices and service solutions and print goods service.
Would it be?
Gums
Gums will
moves.
move.
Yeah.
Let's do A, B, and C.
Oh, okay. By
Do them all together.
then can we do,
That's what Michelle meant, I think, when she made the motion.
yeah, motion for all three?
Sure.
Perfect. Gums moves for all three?
Davis, second.
Yes, I do.
I don't hear, we don't have,
Okay.
Shepro here to tell us that's not appropriate, so Davis seconds. Okay, moving along. Okay.
Okay, so these are all
three
three
linked.
joint purchasing agreements for us to buy copier multifunction printers and services. It also deals with maintenance and supplies. So we buy a Canon, we buy a Toshiba, or we buy, I think there's Canon, Toshiba, and Charles, is there another one on there? Xerox. So as we go to the offices and departments, depending on what their functional use is, we will pick a copier with them off of one of these three contracts and buy the device. The not to exceed $150,000 is what our budgeted amount is for a fiscal year, and we're recommending approval.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford. Bras,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
All pass.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing, may I have a motion and second to authorize expenditure of funds for network storage and services. Moved by Ford, second by
Berman,
Berman.
Okay.
Von
So
Stock.
this is the purchase of our network storage and maintenance services for the network storage. This is what I was talking about earlier, where we're replacing the mass storage array or system of storage for the entire county. This project will change out our current, let's say, 620 gigabyte storage array for a one, what they would describe as petabyte or 1,000 terabyte storage array. So it's almost double the size of what we have. This is designed to last us for 5 years. The contract is through Omnia Partners with Insight. Insight is a supplier of these storage systems. The storage system itself is from Pure Technologies. Again, it's a petabyte of storage. We did get a considerable discount on the controllers and the parts. This is $820,000. It's a budgeted capital expense for the storage system. And just to give you an idea, usually we quantify storage in price per terabyte, and it's pretty typical for this type of storage to pay about $1,000 a terabyte, which would be about $1 million. And we're at about $820,000. Now, the difference that made this so appealing to us is that they're not giving us what's considered a spinning disk. These are all flash-based systems. So we're getting a petabyte of flash storage, which is essentially memory-based storage, very
No-
fast.
No moving parts.
No spinning disks involved. It's all flash-based, so it's incredibly fast, and it's going to be basically double the size of what we currently have. And I think our plan is to try and get it ordered and get the process started sometime early next year. It might take us a little while to get it, but it takes considerable amount of time to implement. So getting it bought and purchased, we'll still have the other system that we use now running for probably a year or more while we're doing this. But it's a big project, and it is a budgeted expense, and we're recommending approval.
All right, any questions for Mr. Von Stock? Other than what tera, peta,
Petabyte.
But whatever.
Petabyte.
Just as good as the acronyms. Hate them. Okay, and no questions, no comments. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Frost,
Raj, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes. Item 7, I think we've got you, me, and Gums, and Berman, and Frost. I think we're doing okay. Have fun, Mark. Yeah, I thought he
I'm on a
dressed up like that
I'm
for us.
on a timeline here too, FYI.
Okay, we're gonna move this right along. Mill Creek, anything? Nothing.
Nothing,
Vehicles, we just bought cars.
nothing.
New business approval of procurement cards for building management and improvement, information technologies. This is just an advice consent. There's
Yes,
a
sir.
list in there in the agenda of who gets cards and how much they can charge. Is that correct?
Yes, and per county policy ordinance, we're required to have the committee approve of the amounts and the person using the cards. And you had a list in your packet for the named individuals and the monthly transaction and one-time transaction limits.
All right. Any comments, questions? Roll call, please. Oh, and they're right. Advice and consent. Is there any objection to that? Then hearing none, we advise and consent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. Old business. Ordinance 248, standing committees, administration. I think what we would like to, is this a discussion, a short discussion item, because I think Mr. Berman and I have something across the river, don't we? Some sort of finance meeting or something. It's news to him. The chairman of the finance committee, another one.
Well,
So without dragging it out, yeah, we wanted to discuss, as we know, everything's going along swimmingly with our IT and maintenance department conversion and or cooperation. And we want to maybe formalize Mr. Fonstock's position. Is that the way you read that, Mr. Fonstock?
yeah, so going into the
Before
fiscal
that.
budget for 2023, right now, we presented the budget and we presented the organization, which would be adopted when you adopt the budget. So you have to determine how you're going to structurally manage and who's got the financial responsibility for the funds. And Mr. Onzik in finance, they're looking at the budgets and who has the responsibility to sign and authorize the expenditure of fund balances. And right now I have that responsibility by an interim appointment, and we're asked to submit an organizational chart, which we did. And we submitted that with the current structure, which is myself. And then I have a group of people that run different divisions of IT. So that's the formal structure that's in the budget process now. We did not make modification to ordinance 2-48, which defines what department heads report to what committees and what titles exist. So that part, to be congruent with the actual organizational chart, would need to be modified. Or I suppose, and this would be a question for state's attorney, I suppose you could pass it and just continue to operate, having a single person appointed to two positions.
I think we're going to roll that back and say, yes, we want to do the joint, but also
You
got
combine.
input from Jamie Labrillo, HR, that it would be wise to have a job description
Yes.
that would go along with this. So we tighten it into like all three: the budget, the organizational chart, and the description of the position. So, Madam Chair.
I have no opposition to this conversation at all, but just questioning if we'll have it in time for December 1st start date for the budget, or is this something that will take a little bit longer? I mean, how quickly can your committee move this forward? And it will have to be voted upon at the November board meeting, because I assume that this may not get passed through for October. So it'll have to be passed through November, otherwise it'll have to wait until December.
I'm not sure exactly what the timeline will be.
We-
As expedient as possible.
We
so-
would have draft language in October for what would be proposed, and admin would move that through to the November county board. That would be your only timeline to do it before the budget is approved. I guess the other option is you just I would have a new committee constructed in December, January for administration because of the election process. And then we would have to revisit and how do you want to do this going
I
forward?
think that given given the progress that we've made and with
Yeah.
the organization we're working with, the people that have the experience now, we don't know what the new board is going to be composed of or the new committee. So my preference would be to expedite this as soon as possible and move it through so that we have it have it in place so that we're not dumping it on another committee that's not familiar with it and have a different chair, that sort of thing. So and this is just a discussion at this
Yes.
point. So, but given that if there's no objections, we can just go ahead and be shooting for that timeline.
I would be working with the Civil States Attorney's Office to draft the required language if they think there's a change that needs to be made, and then we could get that out.
And also work with Labrillo on
Yes.
job description.
Yes.
I
So,
think it would be much easier also for the budget management. Otherwise, you're going to be default for two
Mm.
different departments.
Yeah,
yeah,
we
It
want
makes-
to, Charles and I and Henry, we were talking about making some changes to the way the budget is done. The way when we present it here, it's because we compiled it all into a single report. The budget is kind of distributed across like 10 different funds for buildings. So it's very difficult to understand it collectively. So we run a report and kind of simplify it that way. We'd like to actually make those changes in the accounting system to where it is, it's viewed that way, the way we're presenting it here. And I think in order to do that, it's going to be a substantial change to how we budget for building management. And so that, along with the job description, along with the ordinance or the changes that need to be made, getting that all in place, we can make all those changes and move forward. And again, at a later time, later date, the board is different, the people are different. They can always make changes. And
well, this more or less consolidates it, but it makes it so you're not taking it apart to report on things and then bring
Yes.
it all back together to report to the board to make it make
yes,
sense. It's not just all a little piecemeal. So,
yes.
um,
So we'll do that.
yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So,
Good.
and that was just a question. Okay, other old business, in the board meeting yesterday, was it yesterday? It seems like years ago. Noted that you heard me pull resolution 256, I believe it was, from the
326.
326.
Yeah, I think it was
I
326.
was trying to go from memory. I should never do that. 326?
Yes, sir.
I was close, 256, 326.
Yeah.
I pulled a resolution and in order to get that through, the thought was that we would, rather than, we passed it and incorporated the amendments in the passing of it to correct figures and descriptions. So it's been passed by this committee, but we sent it back to this committee with the thought of having that corrected and then, but on a further discussion, we're thinking maybe we'll just take that right to, it goes to finance.
Yes.
We'd go to
So,
finance
Yeah.
this
Out
month
of,
so that we can get that through without having to wait an extra month and
Yeah.
drag it out.
it was amended on the floor at the last meeting, and then somehow in translation going through the committee process, those amendments never manifested in the future
Yeah.
meeting. So we would just pick up where we left off, which was go straight to finance and
Already
exec.
been passed here with the amendments and we'll just present it with those in the,
We got to get those corrected.
yeah. So move right through. Okay.
Um,
That was the only other thing for old business. May I have a motion and second, place reports on file. Ford,
Second.
Berman, a discussion?
No, I'm.
Roll call, please.
Berman,
I'm here.
Ford,
Yes.
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin. Oh, Caius.
Guys, yes. Motion passes. May I have a motion to adjourn? No executive session necessary. A motion to adjourn?
Gums will move.
Gums moves.